Hey guys, and welcome to yet another Gengo JLPT N3 Grammar video. In this video, we're going to be covering KOMU, KOSO, KOTO, and KOTOKARA. In this video, you will learn exactly how these pieces of grammar are used, as well as have a look at a ton of different example sentences from various different video games to give you a real balanced feel for how this piece of language is used in different situations. So, without further ado, let's get started. KOMU. Here we have KOMU, and this is used after the must stem of a verb to express mainly two different things. The first is to do something thoroughly, fully, deeply, also sometimes explained in certain resources as to do something for a long time. But it's more about this thorough doing of that action. For example, kangaeru, to think. Well, if you have kangae komu, here komu is being connected to kangaeru, but it's in the must stem, and this means to think about something thoroughly, or to think about something for a long period of time, to do it quite well, to think about something quite deeply. The second use of komu is to do something in, often like moving something inwards. Like for example, kakeru, to run. Well, this action doesn't have any direction, it's just running. However, kakekomu means to run in. So when you see this komu, it almost has this feeling of doing the action in. So, like we see here from this example from Zone of the Enders, nomi komareta, to be kind of swallowed in, or perhaps more naturally for English, to be swallowed up. As we saw, right, he fell into the earth, right? He fell down due to the crevices in the earth. So he got swallowed in, or swallowed up, nomi komareta. Okay, let's have a look at some other examples and see how it's used. So the first use here from triangle strategy is nikomu. Now this by itself just means to stew something, but think about what stewing actually means. It means boiling something thoroughly, boiling something well. So here, the ni part expresses the boiling, and the komu expresses doing that action thoroughly. Nikomu, to stew. Here we can see trapped in the ice. So here, tojikomeru, to be trapped in. And here in Nier Automata, to fire into something, uchikomu. So utsu is just the verb to shoot or fire something. So uchikomu is to fire into, as in fire into the target. Here in Metal Gear Solid, we have sasu, which means insert, but here, sashikomu is to insert in, doing the action in an inward motion, inserting the key inside that slot. And finally, seen here in Yakuza 7, we can see this interesting word, omoikomu. So in this example, we actually see it used 3 different times, all with the same kind of meaning. However, when you would translate it into English, it might have a little bit of a different translation. But let's just think about what it really means. Omo, to think, omoikomu means to think something deeply, to think about something thoroughly. So here, the first translation, to make up your mind about something. Well, what do you do when you make up your mind about something? You really think about something really thoroughly and really strongly. Your resolve is very strong. And so again, we see here omoikomi sugiru, that means to do it too much. So to assume something too much, to have made your mind up about something too much. Here, having made your mind up that you're a hero. And then we see in the last use here, the character reflecting on themselves, being like, I have my mind set too much. I assume things too much. I think too much, too deeply into something. I make my mind up too much. Now, this can be quite a tricky piece of language, as you see it used in so many different words. Some little tidbits of important information: when you see it used with a verb that has no direction, no inward movement by itself, what this komu does is it creates this inward movement. Like, for example, kakeru, to run, kakekomu, to run in. So normally the verb kakeru doesn't have any inward motion, but when komu is attached, it creates this inward motion. When you see it used with an inward action, something that already inherently has this inward action, for example, nomikomu, this adds a level of depth to it. The inner action is just a little bit stronger. It's just a little bit more inward. And then finally, when the action doesn't have any movement or motion whatsoever, like for example, niru, to boil, or omo, to think, then what komu does is it emphasizes, it deepens that action. Niru would just be to boil, but nikomu is to really boil well, to really deeply boil something, to penetrate the item, to stew something. Omo is simply to think, but omoi komu is to really penetrate, really thoroughly think about something. So if you try hard, you can actually almost picture this inward motion for almost every use of this komu. Not always, but a lot of the time you can see an inward motion. To do it thoroughly, to boil in, get really thoroughly boiled, nikomu. To be trapped in something, tojikomeru. To fire into something, uchikomu. To get swallowed in by something, nomikomu. Or to really get deep thinking into something, really set your mind on something, omoikomu.
Vega. 愛も変わらず目障りなハエよ。今度こそ地獄へ送ってやる。
KOSO. Next, we have a quite straightforward piece of grammar, KOSO. Very simply put, this KOSO adds emphasis to the noun that comes before it. So, like for example, the difference between this year, kotoshi, and this year for sure, kotoshi koso. So, perhaps maybe you want to start playing games in Japanese, and you want to really put emphasis that this is the year for sure that you're going to play games. Kotoshi koso, Nihongo de game shimasu. Or like seen here in Street Fighter 4, this time for sure, I'll send you to hell. Kondo koso. So kondo would just be this time, but kondo koso, this time for sure. It really adds emphasis to that.
今日こそあの黒いモヤモヤをやっつけるぞ。
人間は力だけでは統率できない。敬い、慈しむ心があるからこそ統率ができるのだ。くだらん。喋る気がないなら、それこそ時間の無駄だな。今の俺こそ爆弾界のトップにふさわしい。お前はただの犯罪者だ。ロレンを殺した男だ。今度こそ逃がさん。エド、行くぞ。
And like hearing Kingdom Hearts here with Toy Story, Kyo koso, today is the day for sure. Or like seen here in Castlevania, Richter is trying to really emphasize that it's only through respect and compassion that we can lead. The important part here isn't the only, that's just the English translation. The important part is the emphasis on the action. Like seen here in 13 Sentinels, that for sure, sore koso, is a waste of time. Or like in Metal Gear Solid 2, I am the one who deserves to be at the top. So I for sure am the one who deserves to be on the top. Or finally, like seen here in Policenaughts, this time for sure we won't let him get away. So we can see that koso is used to emphasize the noun that comes before it. Kondo koso, kyo koso, and even ore koso.
ダメだ。お前たちは情報収集に徹底すること。これは隊長としての命令だ。
Koto. Here we have koto. a piece of language you're quite likely already fairly familiar with, as this koto has many different uses. Here at the N3 level, the use that we're going to be looking at is the expression of needing to do a certain action. When koto follows a verb in the dictionary form or the nai form, it expresses that you must do that action, just like saying shinasai or shite wa ikenai. You should or you must do something. Both koto and koto da are quite similar. Koto is a command, whereas koto da is just a little bit softer, it's more like a suggestion. We'll see more about that in the JLPT N2 video. So, like here, you must be very thorough. 徹底すること。
その代わり、決して離れないこと。約束だからね。はい。
余裕余裕。
相手が弱くても気を抜かないこと。
これは正しいことのためにためらうことなく行動すること。
もがき、挑み、あがく。それこそが死と対峙する者の唯一の剣。夢忘れぬことだ。
今すぐ引き返して。
無理をしないことだ。
You must never leave us. 離れないこと。You must not go easy on someone or underestimate someone. 気を抜かないこと。And you must act without hesitation for what is right. So this is quite a challenging piece of language because you'll see koto being used in so many different ways. And it can even be used with verbs to mean something completely different. But just know that this koto that we're learning here in the N3 level is used to show must, a command to do a certain action.
その後の目撃情報がないことから、三越場は自宅からそう遠くない場所で拉致された可能性が高い。
Now with KOTOKARA, this piece of grammar is used to show the reason or something being the basis for a certain conclusion about something. Quite simply translated as from the fact that. So, like here, from the fact that there was no subsequent eyewitnesses, the following thing is quite likely. It can come after verbs and e-adjectives, nouns followed by dearu or datta, and na adjectives followed by na or dearu and datta. And it shows that because of one fact, the following fact is true. So because it's true that there were no eyewitnesses, then it's likely that they were abducted somewhere not too far from home. Literally, you could see it as from the thing, koto being thing and kara. From the fact, from the thing that, the following thing is true.
AVR は手軽に家庭内で遊べることから未成年への悪影響が問題沙汰されていた矢先のことです。
地上に向かっているヨルハ部隊の数機が連絡を絶った。現在もブラックボックス信号が確認されていることから死亡はしていないと推定される。
彼らは人の体を奪い、すり替わることからスナッチャーと呼ばれた。
So, like seen here in Policenaughts, from the fact that the adult video could be easily played at home, there was an issue being raised about its potential negative impact on minors. So we have the first clause, KOTOKARA, so from the first clause's fact. So you could draw a square around that whole first part and then follow it with KOTOKARA, so from that previous fact, the following thing is true. From the fact that you can easily play the video in your house, it raises these concerns. Or like seen here, from the fact that we're still getting the signal from the black box, it can be presumed that they're not dead. Or like seen here in Snatcher, from the fact that they're able to steal a person's body and slip inside, that's why they're called Snatchers. So hopefully not too challenging a piece of grammar. KOTOKARA, from the fact that. So hopefully this video has helped you understand these 4 pieces of grammar at the N3 level. Some of these pieces of grammar are quite challenging as they can be used in lots of different ways, so you really need to keep an eye on the context of the situation to see which meaning fits best. Especially that koto can be quite challenging. A lot of people have issue with KOMU, but I personally like to really remember that KOMU is to do an action in an inner motion. And this can be to do something deeply as well. as in to thoroughly do something, it still has this kind of inward motion, right? Even if there isn't actually any motion at all, like omoi komu, to deeply think about something. You can see the thoughts deeply penetrating your mind. The same thing with nikomu, to stew something, to boil something well. Well, you could look at it as to thoroughly boil something, but you could also look at it as the boiling, the water is actually deeply penetrating the object that you're boiling. It's going inside it. So there is actually a general connection here with doing something in an inward motion or to do something thoroughly. It's just a bit of a trick sometimes to conceptualize how exactly that is working. Hopefully this video has helped you guys with these pieces of grammar. If this video has helped you learn some of these grammar patterns, then consider liking, subscribing, and if you really want to help support the channel and help me make more videos into the future and do this as more of a full-time thing, then feel free to support the channel on Patreon and come join us in the Game Gengo Discord and say hi. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya.